L'chaim Chasidim, l'chaim, l'chaim. First and foremost, I want to bring to you fresh regards and brachas from our Rebbe. As it was getting closer for my time to speak, realizing that I am speaking on such a special day to such a special audience, the Rebbe's dearest Hasidim, the Neshei Chabad, knowing that my mother is amongst the audience here, it obviously gives me the jitters. Then how can I get up to speak, even if from my own home, to such an amazing crowd on such an amazing evening? So, like many times before I speak, I say a tefillah that the Eibishter Hashem Svasai Tiftach Ufiyagi Tehilosecha, and I open up an Igris Kodesh. So I want to share with you a letter that I received from the Rebbe at 9:11 p.m. tonight. The letter is in Igris Kodesh Chelek Yud Aleph, page Ayin Tes, where the Rebbe writes, Biprotiis Nanesi. More specific, I am enjoying so much that you are about to prepare yourself to speak before Neshei Chabad on this very special day. And the Rebbe says, V'hiratzin sheyavi lepoyel. It should be Hashem's will that your speech should lead to action. So we have with us the tremendous koyach and brachas that the Rebbe is sharing tonight with us by this Fabrengen. So l'chaim, l'chaim to each and every one of you and each and every one of us, l'chaim. It was 1977. The Rebbe had just suffered a heart attack on Simchas Torah, and Baruch Hashem miraculously recovered and was able to go to his house on Rish Chodesh Kislev. While Hasidim were celebrating, and to them the crisis was over, the Rebbe went home. Truth be told, that there was a long recovery process that had to happen physically from then. And literally, almost daily, the Rebbe would have to take a walk from his house to 770, 1 block at first, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, to work on the strength of the Rebbe's heart. Accompanying the Rebbe on these walks was a young doctor. This doctor's name was Larry. We know him as Dr. Larry Resnick, the husband of Mrs. Molly Resnick, father of the young Resnick family. And I heard this story from Dr. Resnick, Olav Sholom's son, Rabbi Yisrael Leib Resnick, the Rebbe Shliach to Tri-Valley, California. He told me that at one of these walks, his father, who had just been introduced to Chabad and had attended some of the Rebbe's Fabrengens, turned to the Rebbe and asked him, Rebbe, can I ask you a question? Which the Rebbe agreed. And he said, Rebbe, I come to your Fabrengens, and to me it seems like it's organized chaos. There are siches, there are nigunim, there are people jumping, there are people saying l'chaim, there are maimorim. It seems like 770 is aftishun av bank. There's chaos going on. And he says, Rebbe, who's in charge of the Fabrengens? The Rebbe got very serious, looked at him, and I'm going to paraphrase the words, but the Rebbe said, Dr. Resnick, I'm in charge of the Fabrengens. We have to realize that no matter what we see, what we hear, even though in front of our eyes we may see chaos, we may see things which are, make us shake a little bit, we have to realize that the Rebbe is in charge of this Fabrengen. Whatever is happening to Hadassah Hasidim, and whatever is going on in the entire world, while to us it may seem unsettling and chaotic, the Rebbe is in charge of this Fabrengen. So tonight, by this special Fabrengen, which we have the personal brachas of the Rebbe for, I want to share with you some personal thoughts and feelings regarding Gimel Tammuz. This past Shabbos, we read the story of the Meraglim. Now, I feel that I'm no different than many of you. And I am sure that I fail just like you feel. That every year when I read the Parshas HaMeraglim, I get more and more aggravated. It doesn't get less. It only gets more. You read the Chumash, Yidden left Mitzrayim. They received the Torah. They traveled all the way to the border of Eretz Yisrael. They're about to go in. They send spies and they're they're really there. And then boom, it comes crashing down like only Jews know how to do to ourselves. It gets turned on its head. The Eibishter is trying to give them miracles. The Eibishter is trying to make the world in Eretz Yisrael a place easy for them to enter and conquer. And they come back with a disastrous report. And that leads to Bechio Ledoides. It leads to years and years of Yidden suffering. I don't know about you, but I know me. Every year I read this Parsha. And it bothers me. How could they not realize what went wrong? As many siches and as many fabrengens and as much as I hear and I know the answer, it bothers me year after year. They say a story that there was once an older woman that had never been exposed to Torah and Yiddishkeit. She lived in Russia, the former USSR, for many years. When she was finally released and she was able to study Torah, she took a Chumash and she started from Bereshis and she read the Parshias. And then when she reached Parshas Vayeshev, Miketz, she would cry every single day. And her children asked her, Mame, was weint ihr? Why are you crying? She said, I can't believe it. Look at this poor kid Yosef. He doesn't have a mother. His father's 100 years older than him, trying to give him some attention. His brothers are jealous. They sell him to Mitzrayim. They tell a story to their father about a coat. He gets put in prison. And day by day, she's reading the Chumash and she's crying and crying and crying for Yosef. Finally, Baruch Hashem, he becomes Mishnah Lamelech. The next year, she does the cycle again. And this time when it comes Vayeshev and Miketz, she's not crying. So her kids asked her, how come you're not crying, Mama? You're not crying for Yosef. So she said, oh, if he didn't learn his lesson from last year, I'm not going to cry for him this year. Certain things get old. Certain things get year after year. The Meraglim story, it bothers me so much. How could they miss out the opportunity? And this Shabbos morning was Shabbos Mevorchim. And I'm saying Tillim, and I'm thinking about the Meraglim. I'm thinking about the Meraglim. What could have went wrong with these Meraglim? And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. This is not the true answer, but I want to share with you a feeling that I had. And this is what I realized. Now let's take it a second. Let's go back. What should they have realized? Think about it. Yidden left Mitzrayim. They've been telling their kids for 400 years. From Avraham Avinu's time, 400 years. They're telling their kids that there's going to be a time when Yidden are going to come to Eretz Yisrael. They're going to go through a land that's not theirs. They're going to go through Mitzrayim. They're going to receive the Torah. And then we're going to enter Eretz Yisrael, father to son to grandson. This has been the Jewish message for 400 years. And guess what? These 12 people were the ones that actually actualized this dream ahead of the entire Klal Yisrael. They were in Eretz Yisrael, the land that was promised to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were actually there. They saw with their own eyes. They heard with their own ears. The Eibishter was performing miracles for them. The Eibishter killed out all the Mitzrayim, all the people in the Canaanim, so that they shouldn't focus on them. Wherever they went, there were funerals, and nobody bothered to look at them. And they should have came back. and said, Chevra, we are going ahead. We've tasted the land that was promised to us. Instead, they came back and said, there's a coronavirus going on. This is a crazy era. This is a crazy place. Stay away from this crazy place. Don't ever come close. Distance yourself from Eretz Yisrael. What went wrong? The Eibishter's trying like this and they get the wrong message. What went wrong? And it finally occurred to me. What went wrong was that Gimel Tammuz happened. This was the first time in their lives since Moshe Rabbeinu took the Nesias that they did not see Moshe Rabbeinu. They were in the promised land, but they were missing the physical seeing, hearing, farbrengens of Moshe. And regular, normal people, when they are missing the sight, the hearing, the farbrengens, the dollars, the lekach of Moshe Rabbeinu, they can be in the promised land. They can be in Tavshin Pei. They can be in an era where Mashiach is active. And the Rebbe said about our days, we are literally in Mashiach's times watching the miracles happening in front of our eyes. And instead of seeing the Geula that they're living in Eretz Yisrael, they see funerals and they see disaster. That's what happens to a normal person when they're not in physical vicinity of a Moshe Rabbeinu. But that was the test. Moshe Rabbeinu and the entire Klal Yisrael were waiting for them to come back and say, Toiv ha'aretz ma'oid ma'oid. If they would have said those 4 words, then there would be the Hisgalus of Moshe Rabbeinu in Eretz Yisrael. Unfortunately, most of them were normal people, and normal people, when they're not in the sight, in the hearing of Moshe Rabbeinu, they fall apart. And the great Nesiya Yisrael turn into the Meraglim. But there were 2 exceptions. These exceptions were not people that were different on their own, but they had a special koyach that allowed them not to fall for the story and what they saw, and they held on. One was Kalev. Kalev ran to the oil. He ran to Chevron, to the caver of the office. But more important, there was Yeshua. Now we all have to identify with Yeshua because we are just like Yeshua. We are the ones that the Rebbe appointed to gave the shlichus to bring Klal Yisrael into the promised land. We are the Yeshua that Moshe Rabbeinu appointed. And when Yeshua was about to enter Eretz Yisrael, I want to tell you, they left on their shlichus on Chof Tes Sivan, 40 days before Tisha B'Av. I imagine around 5 days later on Gimel Tammuz, literally, they started realizing, hey, we're on our own. We don't see Moshe. But right before Yeshua left, Moshe Rabbeinu gave him a present. Moshe Rabbeinu did something which gave him the koyach not to fall for the natural tendencies, and don't fall for what Teva is showing you in front of your eyes, to see deeper, to see Eretz Yisrael, and not to see a land of funerals. What is it that Moshe Rabbeinu gave Yehoshua? He changed his name from Hoshea to Yehoshua. He gave him a special yud. He gave him a special koyach. Now we have to realize that b'chlal, we have to realize the koyach that Hasidim have, that we go with the Rebbe's name. I want to share with you a story that I heard last week, a story that I can't believe I never heard before. I heard this from one of my closest friends. I know this younger man for almost 20 years. This is a story that happened with his grandfather. And yet he never told it to me. I was very upset. I said, you have this story and you never told me the story. For 20 years I know you. Here's the story. I have a friend, a very dear friend. His name is Rabbi Yossi Grossbaum, and he's the Rebbe Shliach, him and his wife and family, in Folsom, California. His grandfather passed away. His name was the Pinchas Krinsky, from the Krinsky family. Not Kurinsky, Krinsky, from the Krinsky family. There were a bunch of brothers. One of them actually drove the Rebbe back and forth. And Pinchas Krinsky was a quiet chassid. One day, this is mamish after the histalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Pinchas Krinsky, if I'm not mistaken, was a bocher. He had a friend that got very sick and was in a hospital. And not just in a hospital, he was in a coma. Out. The family of this friend called up Pinchas Krinsky and told him that Pinchas, go to the young Rebbe, go to the Rebbe's son-in-law, get a bracha. So he went to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, what do I do? The Rebbe's mamish, a young Rebbe. What do I do? I have a friend in the hospital. The Rebbe got very serious, and the Rebbe told him to go to the mikveh. Go to the mikveh, and then go to the hospital and tell him. And the Rebbe said the Frierdiker Rebbe's name, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the Lubavitcher Rebbe wants you to come back. Go tell this. Says keep on repeating it in his ear until he wakes up. He said, wow, this sounds crazy. So he runs to the mikveh. He goes to the hospital, and everyone's looking at him like he fell off the moon. And he's whispering in his ear. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says it's time to wake up. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says it's time to wake up. And guess what? After a few times, the guy opens his eyes, and he's all better. A few days later, this young Rebbe Pinchas comes running back to the Rebbe. And he says, Rebbe, it worked. Rebbe, he came back to life. And the Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe said, were there other sick patients in the hospital? And he said, yeah. And the Rebbe said, did you give them the message as well? And he said, no. And the Rebbe says, oi, you could have brought back all these people to life. You had the koyach. I gave you that koyach for this time. You could have brought them all back to life. We have a koyach that the Moshe Rabbeinu changed our mitzias from Hosea to Yehoshua. And with this koyach, we can bring the whole world back to life. With this koyach, we can make a tchias hamesim of the entire world. The world is right now mamish walking corpse. They're like so, they're just dying of apathy. We have the koyach not just for ourselves, but to bring the entire hospital back to life with the Rebbe's koyach. We have the Rebbe's name inside of us. We don't realize the koiches that we have. The Rebbe gives us koiches. I'll share with you another fascinating story that I heard firsthand. You, whoever's sitting on this Fabrengen, has, I am sure, heard of Rabbi Yerachmiel Binyaminson, the executive director of Tzivos Hashem. I was speaking with him recently. We were sharing a small Fabrengen. And he says, Gershon, I have to share with you a story that happened with me personally. I said, tell me the story. He says it was 1 o'clock in the morning one night. There's a phone call in his house. The phone is ringing. So he picks up the phone, and it's Rabbi Groner Ov Shalom on the phone. Rabbi Groner says, Yerachmiel. He says, yes, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm calling you from the Rebbe's office. He jumps out of bed, a phone call from the Rebbe, 1 o'clock in the morning, Negovas and Moidani, a hat, jacket, gagaitel, who knows what he has to go. And he says, what can I do? What can I do? He said, Rabbi Groner said that he just got a call that there's a young child which is sick, deathly sick, and they're calling the Rebbe in the middle of the night. And you know what the Rebbe said? The Rebbe said this kid is registered in Tzivos Hashem. If the Anhala of Tzivos Hashem puts him up a rank, it will change his existence and he will become a healthy kid. If he goes up one rank, so he says, Rachmiel, please, put him up a rank. It's Pikuach Nefesh. He says 1:30 in the morning. Those days, all the ranks were not on computers. It was on index cards. He ran to his office and put the kid's name up a rank. And he said one day he'll make sure the kid did something to earn the rank. He called back to Rebbe's office, said the kid is up a rank. And then they got the message, the kid is out of Sakona. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Just the Rebbe's koyach lifting up a rank in Tzivos Hashem is a whole new mitzias for this kid. He's a gesunde kind. The Rebbe lifted us up a rank. The Rebbe took Hoshea and made him Yehoshua. The Rebbe took each and every one of us and gave us a Yud. But what is that Yud? What did the Rebbe do right before we went out on our shlichus on our own? And the Rebbe said, with this, you will not fall prey to the tainas hameraglim. With this, you won't fall prey to the natural feelings of Gimel Tammuz when the entire world is talking about a yard site. Can you imagine Mahaban al-Lebedik Rebbe and people are celebrating a yard site? But that's what people see. That's what people hear. How do we not fall for such things? How do we stand strong with our emunah? How do we not become one of the meraglim? How do we stay and go from Hoshea to Yehoshua? How do we go up a rank? How do we have the koyach to bring Tchias HaMesim to the entire world? And the answer is very simple. It's a very, very simple yud. Right before, moments before the Helen Vehester began, where we're in Yemais HaMashiach, but we don't see the Rebbe, which is so difficult. And the Rebbe is waiting for us to say, instead of Gimel Tammuz, instead of these days being dark days, we have to be strong that Toiva Aretz Ma'oid Ma'oid. We are in the generation of Mashiach. We are in the best times that Yidden have ever lived. We are on the cusp of redemption. That has to be the way we talk to ourselves, our friends, families, and communities. We cannot be Meraglim speaking of Levias. Instead, we have to speak about the greatness of the land, the greatness of the time that we're in. That is the report that we have to be giving over. But how do we have the koyach? How can we be so strong? How can we bring such chayas to the world? How can we bring everyone up a rank? And that comes with one condition. We have to change our name from Hoshea to Yehoshua. Inside each and every one of us, there's a yud. That yud is that pintele hiskashrus. That yud is the yichid that the Rebbe instilled in each and every one of us. B'mesiras nefesh mamish. That's inside our heart. The Rebbe was mesiras nefesh. Day after day, a porch on the porch, waving his hand. B'koiches atzumim, with physical pain and physical mesiras nefesh. The Rebbe ingrained it in our hearts. We have to bring it out. We have to let that yud shine. We have to let that yud become a flame that changes our identity from Hoshea to Yehoshua. And when that happens, my Tayir Chassidim, we'll have the koyach to bring the entire world up a rank. We'll have the entire koyach to go to the entire hospital. The world is one big hospital now. And bring Tchias HaMesim to the whole hospital. But that comes with one condition. That we decide tonight that we are not victims. We are not living in terrible times. The Rebbe did not forsake us. And toiva haaretz ma'oid ma'oid ashreinu ma'toiv chalkeinu u'ma'noim doiraleinu u'ma'yafa Yerushaseinu l'chaim chsidim l'chaim Rebbe l'chaim de ganze Welt mizol zeh nirtzeinenu liris es malkeinu the iskalus of the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach Takef umiyad mamish l'chaim l'chaim.